Well, welcome to Talking Trail, your podcast about everything mountains trail running, brought to you by Summit Gear. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
We have a champion here, or two champions who raced on the weekend, but one has done quite a few races.
I don't think we should talk about my tiny little effort when Rob's gone and done himself a miler. So.
And I wouldn't use the word champion either.
How are you feeling right now?
Pretty broken.
Yeah.
That's
pretty normal.
I haven't worn shoes since Sunday morning. You know?
And this is what, 3 days post your miler,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Miles.
No, legs are coming good, but I made the comment earlier today that a day after finishing 48 hours of going up and down further stairs, I was like, I'll be right to run 6 foot in 6 days' time. There's no way I could run 6 foot this Saturday. No way. Like, I just, and I don't know if it's the cumulative effort of 4 ultras in 7 weeks or it was just this.
Probably has something to do with
it.
A little bit.
Solely. Yeah, I think, Lewis Quadrito did warn me, one of my Fellowship of the Ring. He did warn me that having all of these big runs back to back in such a shorter period of time wasn't allowing my body to sort of get over that fatigue. And I did feel it. So,
I think your biggest problem is you can't. He's currently wearing thongs, and your feet look terrible, so you probably can't even wear running shoes to race. So take a break.
Definitely.
No, but it was really, really good. Fantastic event. Obviously, it's much loved, and it's just really great. Not only sort of country vibes. It's around farming land and pine forest, but really professionally run operation as well.
Yeah.
And just, with 9 events, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, the vibe sounds amazing.
So this week's episode, we've got a recap of the event with race director Scott Hazelton.
We've got Quinton Gil, Hounslow winner.
Hounslow Marathon,
also came second in the UTA Miler this year and won the Kosciuszko 100. He also has his coaching, and he has some amazing insights and quite a different perspective. So look forward to chat with Quinton.
Yeah, and before we step over to the interview with Quinton, I thought we would just do a bit of a recap on some of the results over the weekend. As I said, 9 different races, so not going to rattle off every winner and second and third place, but some notable runs. We had Ian Gallagher, who took out the Lonely Mountain Ultra Miler in a amazing time of 19 hours and 17 minutes. Took 6 hours off last year's winning time. It was just phenomenal. Second and third were also well under last year's winning time. The guy who came 5th in the Miler, Jordan Levers, only signed up on the Thursday afternoon. Was contemplating doing the 22 or the 32. His mate Bob Brown, who did well in the 104K, was sort of saying, come out to Orange for the weekend. So Jordan took a really big bite and said, I'll do a miler, and ended up coming 5th overall in an amazing time. So that was really good.
Not advised.
Not advised.
He has come to a Summit Gear run before, so...
he has?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So
that's, I think he's proven to himself he's not only a climber, he's a great ultra-distance runner as well. In the 50-mile, Jodie Bailey, Blue Mountains runner, finished 6th overall and first female, so amazing run for her. And I know she was really pumped with that result. In the 50K, Lou Clifton, who we all know is an amazing athlete, came 3rd overall and obviously first female. In the 32K, Jill Fowler, Last Motiva athlete and has performed really well in a whole lot of races for quite a while, came 7th overall. And Jason Couples, Lower Mountains runner, continued his great year, coming 11th. We also need to mention Rob Inshaw, took out not only first in his age group in the 11K, but...
And a few 18-year-olds.
That's right. That's right.
5th overall in what is an incredibly fast race, under an hour for 11 kilometres awesome. with a whole lot of elevation. So well done, Rob.
Thank you.
So welcome, Scott Hazelton, race director for the Lonely Mountain Ultra series of races, really, we could call it. I mean, they're all on the one weekend, but there's as we've talked about in the past, there's 9 different events. So, and this is the relaxed, feeling successful race director, not the stressed a week before race director, huh?
That's a great intro, Rob. Thank you. And thank you to Robs and Asara for having me on again.
Well, how did you feel about the whole event? We can tell you our perspective, but just from a race director's perspective, were you happy?
Yeah, like I'm just in that post-event glow, to be honest, guys. It was so good to gather with you guys out there and see Rob get it done. I can't wait to hear your stories. And also, Rob, you absolutely nailed that 11K. I'm sure we'll get to that if you're going to make me talk about that. And Sarah, I think you were sadly missing. We might need to go into that too.
I
But when I speak for the committee and myself, I think I can probably say I think it's been our best one yet. So it was just a great weekend. I'm still glowing.
That's great.
Yeah. It certainly had that vibe. I mean, you were out running the whole time, so I was in the hub with the Summit Gear stall, and I mean, the vibes were great. Everyone was excited. I remember the first milers coming in, and people were starting to congregate at the start of the event, and that was awesome. And it all seemed to go off without a hitch.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad that's your perspective, because there's always a little bit of sort of that, like the duck moving madly underwater, but everything looks good on top. As long as everybody feels like everything's good on top, then that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly was surprised at how tough the course was, and hearing from other people after the event that did some of the shorter distances, they also said, oh, that was a really tough course. So I don't know if it's some of the percentages of gradients at times, or the technical nature. I mean, because we sort of moving from the mountains going across the Orange and thinking, great, no stairs, it's just going to be so much easier. A lot of wide open fire trails, but it's still not simple or easy. It's not where you can close your eyes and just chill out and not focus.
Yeah. So Rob, tell me, I mean, congratulations firstly. Like, we had a little chat yesterday, watching you get it done and listening to your stories leading up, and the Fellowship of the Ring stuff that you're going to close out, I think, with a couple of episodes. It's just been, I just love that that's happened. Honestly, I can't quite believe that people have grabbed onto this concept. As a race director, you sort of, it's really, really something unique to think that people would decide to dedicate the training, the effort, the financial investment, the impact on family. You said yesterday you had the unexpected, unplanned day off work, but we don't need to talk about that here. So much goes into getting this done, Rob, and that's really rewarding. I guess it happens, right? But you don't sort of think that what you think might be a good idea will actually light a flame in a runner's sort of heart, and then they sort of spend months preparing for it, and then they get it done. So I'd love to hear a little bit from you. What are your reflections now that you've actually got that one ring in your possession?
I do, and I'll just show everyone that.
Look at that. There's only 17 of those rings in circulation as we speak.
And it's amazing,
wow,
at 24 karat gold.
We'll have to up the entry price.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I'm super happy that I got it, and I did put a few obstacles in my way. I think
you did.
Yeah, I did have a couple of experienced professionals say, "You're mad. You really should have done this, all those events over 3 years and not in 2 months." And I think I did suffer for it during the race, and went, yeah, okay, now I'm feeling it in the legs, all of the previous events. But for me, yeah, more so than running it as a race, I think I started out with maybe a mindset that if everything went well, it would be a race for me, and I'd try and push for that. Realised very quickly, I think in the first 2 or 3 kilometres, that, okay, I'm not going to be in the mix for a podium unless everyone just drops out because of how hard they were going. To find out, that Ian Gallagher, who won the event, was probably 8 hours in front of me. So, yeah, just chalk and cheese
That sounds like a very good time.
in terms of athletes.
Yeah.
Well, he
Yeah,
took
sub 20
6 hours off last year's winning
Wow.
time. So, yeah, a very, very hot time. But I always wanted it to be a community thing. I knew from the previous years of coming out what a great vibe and what a great community vibe Lonely Mountain Ultra weekend is. And I just got more of that. So for me, there was some, I suppose, like almost some special moments. Like a lot of people would have been giving you that feedback around the volunteers and the aid stations and the race hub. And, you know, and I've always promoted the fact that it is a not-for-profit. It's a local community feel, but very, very professional. It's the fact that you've got an executive or a committee, and there are defined roles for those committee members. So there's a head of sponsorships and head of logistics, and one for parking and one for merch, and all of that. It's incredibly professionally run, and that's why it is so successful. But there were just instances while I was out, and I did spend way too much time in the aid stations and chatting to people and stopping, you know, running and just catching up with people and checking how their day was going, and then, you know, after a while going, all right, well, see ya, I've got a run to do.
I'm in a race.
And I'm in a race, so I'll keep running. So I had a number of moments like that. For me, a few that really stood out in my mind was the first time I got to the top of Mount Canobolas and having a couple of people dressed in the volunteers gear, and they said, oh, because I needed to use the toilet. So I said, like, where are the toilets? And they said, well, there's the proper ones over there, or we've got the Portaloo over near the aid station. And I said, well, I'll go over there. I won't make the people in the aid station suffer for that. And they're like, okay, well, we'll look after your vest and your poles. And there was just a couple there. I think Jenny, and I didn't catch the other lady's name. And I said, oh, so you're volunteering here? And they went, no, we finished our shift. We've just come up to here to have a look. You know, so they were, even though they'd finished their volunteer shift, they were still looking out for the runners. So that was really nice. Later on, I don't know what time it was, but it was certainly nighttime. Got to one of the later aid stations and met Sarah Parkins and I think her husband David.
Yeah.
Sarah said, oh, yeah, well, I ran earlier. You know, I was just chatting to them, and she said, oh, yeah, I had a good day. I came second in the 50K. So she'd finished second to Lou Clifton in the 50K and had a really good run. But then hours later was her and her husband were volunteering late into the night. I got to, I think it was my last climb up to, before I got onto that snow gum track to get up to Mount Canobolas for the last time. So this would have been well after midnight.
Yeah.
And the volunteer giving directions was Andrew Vogler, who also had run earlier in the day. I think he did the 50K as well.
Great guy.
You know, so that would have been hours earlier that he would, you know, he'd started at, you know, I don't know what, 7 something in the morning, done 50Ks. I think he took over 9 hours to do that. Most people would just be, all right, feet up in front of the telly or in a bath or in bed asleep. And after midnight, he's out there with the high vis on and helping runners to get finished, you know. And I just thought those 3 instances were just typical of the whole weekend and just the whole time, you know, I was just feeling all the love and support from other runners as well. Like, I think it's such a shame for people if they don't put their name on their bib, because you just get so much love and support from people. You know, there was this group of women doing the 104 and they were doing the whole way together. And I must have passed them about 4 or 5 times as it turned out. And they were just, oh, here comes Rob the Miler. Here's Rob the Miler.
Yeah.
Like, didn't know me at all, but just you could tell from the coloured bib and the name and go, oh, it's Rob the Miler. Yeah, it's doing the Miler. And I adopted that as my Italian name, Rob de Miler. You know, but it was just, again, typical of what I think a lot of people would have experienced the whole weekend. So aside from great performances and whether people were hitting PBs, and so much feedback post the race, post Sunday morning, of just, oh, we've got to come out here again. We've got to bring more family members, got to bring more mates out and camp and all of that.
No good.
I have got one thing for you, Scott. Gav Clifton rang me yesterday and he said, hey, I was thinking about that race hub. Let's get there. And he goes, you know what race would be really, really cool to be held on Farmer Ian's property? And I gave it about 2 seconds and went, a backyard ultra.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, that's what I was thinking. So I said, I'll mention that to Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that far from my thinking, but we'll say no more here just yet. Got to say it. Can I give two quick memories of you, Rob? They're sort of juxtaposed. One, I felt that you early on had probably decided you're just going to enjoy the atmosphere. You were tired. You've done the Fireys climb. 6 foot was late. You've really signed up for a massive month. And so when you were coming into transition, each time I saw you, I could see it seemed like you decided time's a little bit irrelevant and I'm just going to enjoy the people, enjoy the moment. I'm going to get this thing done. But there wasn't a huge sense of urgency, which I really loved. But then the best thing I loved is that in the end, when you were trying to get it done, Jordan was 2.5 minutes in front of you. And your comments to me afterwards is that, I could have beaten him. What was I doing? I spent 3 hours in aid stations and I could have come 5th by 2.5 minutes. So there was that competitive thing still kicked in late. So I reckon you just embraced the weekend in a really great way, and it was good to see you get it done. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, Sarah won't know this. Rob might have heard me mention that at that last aid station, so we only had like 7 or 8 Ks to go at the top of Canobolas, and I knew like there was no one behind me. We'd been for the last 2 hours looking for headlights in the distance, and knew that there was a big gap. I had on 7th place at that stage. And we were just again enjoying the chat with the volunteers at the aid station, and Sean, who was my pacer at the time. They were offering us all this stuff, and I said, "Oh no!" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'll have some noodles." So they made up a pot of noodles. So we just sat there and ate the noodles, and I was just like chatting away to the first aider there. And if I'd known it was like 2.5 to 3 minutes, I think we probably no, not at all. I was like, no worries, we got all the time in the world. And if I'd known, I would have finished only 3 minutes. It's like, definitely could have.
Now on the other end of that spectrum, your namesake sitting to your left there has ended up coming 5th in his race. So I think little bit of kudos there for Rob number 2, or I don't know how you call it, B1, B2, R1, R2.
Yeah. Both number 1.
But yeah, I mean, you nailed that. Yeah. I mean, 56 minutes on that time's pretty cracking, mate. And you put a few others to the sword, and one person, Wes, in front of you in the 40 to 49 category. But mate, you got to scroll a long way down that list. Here, I'll tell you. So local runner Mitch in your category was, and Mitch will hate me saying this, he's a solid 5 minutes behind you. So cracking run, Rob.
Thank you.
Well done.
I've been practicing a lot of hills this year, and so when I got to the first time I've run up Mount Canobolas, or a part of it anyway, it felt quite good. The problem was I was surrounded by 18-year-olds the whole way, and it was really annoying.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for that, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't done that many short races, but I loved it.
Yeah. So first place, he's young 20s. Second place was under 18. Third place, wow. Wes. We all know Wes. Fourth place is Josh Jackson in the 18 to 39, and then boom, look at that, Rob, 50 to 59, but 5th outright. So great time, mate. Anyone who can run under an hour on that 11, like it's a serious 11, as I'm sure you'd attest to.
Yeah, it was great, and for anyone that wants to or was thinking about doing it, the last 3.5 kilometers?
Yeah, about that.
It's like it's a perfect descending angle to run down. So I was going to say that was a pleasure, but it was actually really hard because I was surrounded by 18-year-olds again. So it was very fast, but yeah, awesome little course.
Can you share with us, Rob? So uphill, you're on it. Did you get passed by any young whippersnappers on the way down? Like, did you just hold your position from the right-hand turn at the top?
I did,
Yeah,
nice. And there was the guy in front of me. I thought at one stage I did close in on him a little bit, and I thought maybe there was a chance I could catch him. But I think after about 2 kilometres of running down that hill, that gap didn't close any further, and so that was that goal.
Yeah, that was Josh. He got you by about 24 seconds, I think, or something like that. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, great run, mate.
Which was
well done.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right, Scott.
Well, speaking of great runs, a name that is now become synonymous with Lonely Mountain took out the 32K, Gerald McPherson, with a super hot time of 2:37 for a 32K on that course, as technical and hilly as it was. That's a super impressive short run for him.
Yeah, I'm really glad you raised him, Rob. So Gerald, he's such a good guy. I went to his wedding earlier this year to Hannah McRae. For those who follow Hannah, she's pretty much global now, I think, in long distance as a female athlete. They're just such a power couple. And Gerald was so kind to help us with this whole concept when he was here. I think he was doing his last sort of internship as a medical doctor in training at the hospital. And so just a few of us got to know him. And of course, he's light years ahead of myself as a runner. But there's a couple of pretty hot runners here, Sam and Chris, who could run with him. And so we've all become good mates. And so Leo Peterson, I don't know if you know Leo, who got the record in 2023 at 2 hours 21, which I remember when Leo came across the line, I thought he must have cut the course because it was just like we've missed a couple of people across the line at times, like even Ian Gallagher this year. He was ahead of all my best estimates for the mile. It was only his second year, and I felt really guilty a couple of times he came through and didn't quite catch him on the mic. But when Leo came in a couple of years ago, we thought that there must be something wrong here, but it's not, because he's just a world-class athlete as well. So there was a few whispers that Gerald might try and take down the record this year. But Gerald's time this year, though he couldn't knock off Leo, it was the second fastest ever on the 32 and a minute ahead of Marty Keys, who had set a red-hot time as well. So he won it this year by about 16 minutes, I think, and his time this year is the second fastest ever. Still a fair bit of time to Leo, but right up there. So it was great to see the little pocket rocket come back, little G as I call him. He's a great runner.
Did he run in a bucket hat?
He sure did, in full red with his famous bucket. The thing I love about him is his parents were in, I think they might have been the 11. Yeah, I think they were in the 11 kilometre, and he passed both of them in the finishing chute. So he's just sending it. Mum and Dad are there, and he just rips past them on his way, and sort of the whole family finished together. It was great.
Speaking of family, I need to do a shout out to Farmer Ian Hazelton as well. Not only I imagine that you and Renee and the committee had a few sleepless nights, or were up for god awful amount of hours over that whole weekend, but I came across him at must have been about 3 a.m. Or 2:30, 3 a.m. on the Saturday morning. He was out helping us runners to get across those farms. Because I knew there was another 10 people behind me, and they were sort of spread out. So I was thinking he's not going to get a lot of sleep tonight. And then knowing he's got 1,000 or 2,000 people hanging around his farm all Saturday and Sunday. So kudos to him for not only hosting such a big event, but also getting out and staying up all night as well.
Yeah. Look, thanks for the shout out for him. He's obviously he's my old man, but not everyone has a great relationship with their dad, but I get to have a really good one. He's a bit of a hero of mine, and he's my old man. So you're dead right. And look, the context of that, Rob, is as a miler runner, you would have heard we changed the course this year. I got these two great local property owners, they're working farms, to come on board to get you guys off that cargo road. I just hated the idea of you guys running on the side of that road. It wasn't great. And we achieved it. But one of those farms, they have these Marama sheepdogs, for your listeners, they're a unique breed. They bond with the flock, but they look like a golden retriever, a bit bigger. But I had every reassurance that we'd done everything we could, but I went and visited the farm twice. And as runners, you don't like the idea of coming across a dog, especially in the middle of the night. It can be quite unsettling. There's genuine phobia about dogs. And it literally was, mate, on Friday afternoon, about 6 hours before you guys started, I still didn't have much peace about it. And I thought, we really need someone there. We couldn't find a volley that would sit there. I was trying to put together my weekend, and I thought, there's no way I can go from Friday morning until Sunday morning and add that in without like a little pocket of sleep after we set you guys off before it all happens, and then we go all night Saturday. So I literally said to Dad, hey, Dad, how's your insomnia going? And he sort of gave me that sideways look. And I said, how would you like to sit in a car and make sure that if any runner feels a bit scared in that, it's only 100 metres, right, when you ran past the dogs. And he did it. He said, I can do that, no worries at all. And he sat there, and thankfully, because I fell asleep knowing that he was there. I didn't think I would have been able to sleep, and I didn't get to touch base with him until about 10 o'clock the next morning, when we just crossed paths in all the mayhem. And he said there was not a single problem. But I think, his generosity to sit there at 3 a.m. on Saturday morning, as you say, in the dark, to watch little bobbing headlights come past, and there wasn't even a dog barking, let alone there. I mean, that's the kind of guy
I never actually saw him in the dogs.
Yeah, so I'm very indebted to him. Without him and Mum being willing to do that, the event just can't happen in the way it can. I mean, we could do the event. We could go off-site, and then we're working in different areas. But to have it there, as you've seen it, it's pretty unique. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Scott, thanks for your time again. Congratulations on a great 2025 event. And look forward to 2026.
100%. Can I just ask quickly, what's the next races for you three? What have we got coming up? I think Rob's going into a bit of a rest period.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nothing more.
Sarah, have you got something on coming up, surely?
Yeah, I missed Lonely Mountain because I did 2 race weekends in a row.
Unacceptable.
I actually was still
Sorry.
That's not last weekend.
Unforgiven.
I got a 46K roller coaster run October 18 in a few weeks. UTK 30, Tarawera 50, UTA 50, 6 foot, so a few things.
Good on you. Yeah. Good luck.
And Lonely Mountain next year. I'm going to try and figure
That's what I was hunting for. That's good. She said it here. The record stands.
30 or 50. I haven't worked it out.
And how about you, Rob?
And I haven't got much planned at the moment, but I did yesterday sign up for the UTA miler.
Oh, you're in.
And
let's go. Yeah, I'll see you there, brother.
I heard you were doing it, Scott, and I thought Scott's going to need a training buddy for sure. So.
I am. I'm going to need a lot of help, but hey, let's go.
Yeah. So I'll see you at the start line of that one.
Yeah, how good. All right. Well, thanks guys for having me on again and again. Thanks for all your support of my little race out here. It seems to be building slowly in people's conscience, and these sorts of things help that happen. So it's been great to have you join us. So thank you.
No problem.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott.
See you guys.
Well, welcome Quinton Gil to the Talking Trail podcast. How you doing?
Amazing. Yeah. Can't complain.
We're very privileged to have you here. Quinton Gil has a UTMB index of 793. Some of his recent wins was Hounslow, which was awesome for his finish. Hounslow Marathon. You've just also actually done Black Hole 100 in Queensland, which was also be interesting to hear about that. UTK last year, 100. As well as the UTA miler this year in the Blue Mountains. You got an amazing second. So we'll get into some of those races. But first question is really, how did you get into the trail running scene?
Yeah, so about almost 9 years ago now, I moved to Australia. And I wasn't a trail runner while I was in Canada, funny enough, even though we have the beautiful mountains and stuff. But yeah, I was...
you have bears.
Yeah, we got bears and cougars chasing you. Right? The funniest thing on that is, I remember coming to Australia being, terrified of the snakes and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, snakes and all these things, we don't have them. And then when I finally went back and started trail running in Canada, I was like, I'm way more terrified in Canada. I was, looking over my shoulders for animals that were going to attack me. But, yes, I came to Australia about, 8-9 years ago, and... just while I was doing uni, just was looking for a hobby to do, started doing the Spartan races and OCR stuff, which naturally kind of puts you in that environment of being in the trails and the mountains, and did that kind of semi-professionally. We weren't making money off of it, but on the Australian pro team for a couple of years there. But eventually I kind of lost my passion in that, and just started thinking about where do I like to spend most of my time, and it was always the mountains and the trails, and just being in nature was standing at the bottom looking at the top of a mountain, just wanting to be at the top of the mountain kind of thing was always what excited me. So yeah, naturally I after a roller coaster of injuries and different things going on, and not knowing, kind of how I was going to approach it, I just kind of reset and started from like almost 0 kilometers a week and reset my whole mental attitude and philosophy, and wanted to take this trail running thing on board with a fresh mind rather than all the other things that I had done in the past kind of thing.
And when did you move to the Blue Mountains?
The Blue Mountains now were July 2024, so about a year and a couple months kind of thing, yeah.
Okay. So you'd started the trail running obviously before you came to the Blue Mountains.
Yeah, so I would say like focusing on trail running was about 3 years now. September was actually the mark of 3 years. I'll always remember the date when I came back from my injury. It was September 7th.
Right.
I can't remember the year, but I just always remember that date. And so this year, September 7th, was 3 years to the date of when I came back from an ankle injury, like a chronic inflammation, and was like, I'm going to start from zero and just work my way through the ranks of training and volume and intensity and that kind of stuff. And so it was, I think that's why Hounslow was a really cool event, because it was kind of right on that 3-year marker of me being able to see where I was 3 years ago. And then to have the race that I did on that day, it was like, yeah, it was, and just the atmosphere at the finish line and everything, like it was such a cool moment, especially because it wasn't actually one of my bigger focus races, but something just came together on that day and created like my best finish line of the year pretty much, which was really cool. So.
And you also did, was it over 20 minutes faster than your time the year before?
Yeah, well,
granted, you did the monster the year before.
Yeah. I was 5 hours and 5 minutes last year, and so I brought it down to 4 hours 31.
Amazing.
Which,
crazy.
Most of that though, like when you think about it, like last year I was 1 month into living in the Blue Mountains. Now I'm a year and a month into living into the Blue Mountains when I tackled it the second time, right? So a lot of that is just the familiarity of trails, right? It's priceless when it comes to these races, just knowing your terrain and environment.
Yeah, you definitely took the lead in the spot of Hounslow, which gets really technical, which obviously shows you've done a good amount of training on that areas to Lockleys, right? You're comfortable there.
Well, I think one factor that I think with trail running that a lot of people really forget, especially with ultra, is when we look at like the shorter events, like the 1500 meters, the 5Ks, the 10Ks, you can't replicate those efforts every weekend, right? Because to go do a 5K like threshold as hard as you can every single weekend, you'd kill yourself, right? Because of how high the intensity is. But with ultras, that your race pace should be in an aerobic state, right? Which is where we should spend the most of our time training. And I think people are scared to push into that high aerobic state because they're like, oh, that's race pace. And they get this weird mentality of, oh, I shouldn't do race pace all the time because I'll fatigue and I'll kill myself. But it's like, what you're actually doing is you're strengthening that pool of muscle fibers that you're going to be using on the day. And if you don't spend enough time strengthening that pool of muscle fibers, then when you get onto the day, there's so much more mystery. So I spent all of this time focusing all of my long runs every single weekend towards that race pace. So that when I got there on the day, not only was my body physically prepared, but mentally I was like, I know exactly how I'm going to run this because I've done it 15, 20 times leading in kind of thing. So it's, the biggest thing I tell people is like, don't be scared to run race pace when you're training for those ultra events, right? Because that's going to give you the mental confidence and the physical preparation when you're there on the day, which helps you toe the line with less nerves, right? Because it's more of a mentality of like, it's just a training run again. I've done this the last 15 weekends, right? So, all I'm doing is going out for another training run, right? Same nutrition, everything you've practiced. And that's something that I'm trying to dial in with my athletes right now too, because it is very much a mental process too, because a lot of people will train and have great training sessions and then get to start line and something unfolds, right? And all of a sudden you just don't have the same day that you've already had multiple times in training, right? But that just comes down to how you're approaching the day.
So I want to go back to starting from zero, like 3 years ago in September. So you came back from injury, you adopted this philosophy of starting from zero. So how disciplined did you need to be within yourself, having been an athlete, a competitive athlete, doing the obstacle racing, and then going, okay, I'm starting as effectively as a beginner and working your way up. And then at what point
did you start doing race pace sessions?
Yeah.
From starting from zero and building up back up?
A wise man in the Blue Mountains that a lot of people might know named Jacques. If you've ever seen him running, spoke some of the best words ever to us on the trails. He said that the magic you are looking for is in the training you're avoiding, right? And for me, the training that I was avoiding in that time was being patient, right? And so the whole process was about me just learning to control myself and not get excited with big races and big volume and all the fancy stuff, and going like, I just need to spend time at a certain volume and stay there and be patient and know that maybe I could have a better performance, but that's not where I'm at yet. And so I'm going to be comfortable with where I'm at and just get as much as I can out of that stage before I move on to the next one, and get as much as I can from that stage and move on next to it. So it was really like internalizing my thoughts to where I was and just trying to get the most out of where I was, rather than getting stuck with the impulses of what's next or what could be next. And then, and going from there. Was the other question you put on the end of that?
Oh, so at what point did you introduce race pace sessions?
The race pace, yeah. So honestly, from the get-go. So from 10K a week, I was going race pace. So how I broke this in my mind was when I was aiming for this 50K at the end of my first year of training, because that's how kind of I broke it down, is each year I was like, first year of training, I'm going to do 50. Second year, I'll do 100. Third year, I'll do a miler. Just to make it simple and, have some sort of process, right? So for the 50K, I was like, I'd love to do a 50K under 5 hours, right? Obviously, you got to pick a course where the terrain's going to be suitable for that, right? Because, 50K at Hounslow under 5 hours at that time would have been completely unachievable, right? But found a course, 2,000 meters vert, 50K. It was the Coastal High down in Queensland. And my goal was to run under 5 hours, which is a 6-minute average pace, right? And all I did was break down the profile of the terrain, and it was 2,000 meters, 50K, so you're looking at 400 meters per 10K. So every single long run I did that year was that profile, and I just ran every single one at just under 6-minute average pace. And when you start, it's really easy because my long runs were only 4K, right? So it was like, 100 or 200 meters vert, 4 or 5K. That was it, right? Move on. And then it got 6K, 7K, 10K, 12K, 15. It was just that same thing. And so that's where I talked about before, that specific muscle fiber pool that you're training is really prepared by the time that happened. And at that stage, there's a lot of recovery time when you're only running up to 50K per week. Because by the time I got to that race, I'd maybe had a 12K block of 40 to 50K leading into it. But all of the runs that whole year were all at that pace. And then eventually the long runs got longer and got to a point where, I was doing maybe half the distance at that sub 6-minute average pace, and then just had to put it together on the race day. And so, that's to answer your question. I kind of was doing it from the get-go. And the moment I finished that race, it was 6K pace for 100. That was the next goal. And
so the idea of like the different zones, people like zone 2, zone 3, you're kind of not that focused on that, or because it's all about, I'm trying to do 6-minute pace for this distance.
Yeah.
So just condition your body to whatever zone it's going to be in to do that.
Yeah. So that's when you're looking at the specificity of your long run, that's my main focus, right? But what is that that's going to be it should be an aerobic state, or maybe a high aerobic state, maybe crossing over into that zone 3 marathon type efforts. But for the most part, that all of that training should be aerobic anyways, right? And then, zones are really important, but I think we get really confused with zones. There's so much information about it. And the most important thing to remember is that you're training your muscles, right? People like to say, VO2 max and aerobic capacity and whatever. It's like you're training your muscles, right? And you want to be able to spend time utilizing a different muscle fiber. We call it like a muscle fiber pool rather than just slow twitch. Because if you say, I'm just training my slow twitch, well, it's like there's fast twitch muscle fibers activated at that time too, right? So every single pace, like if you were looking at an 8-minute kilometer, you're using a certain muscle fiber pool or percentage of pool there. And then you look at a 7-minute per kilometer pace, you might use a lower percentage now of those slow twitch muscle fibers, and you might get a little bit extra of some of those fast twitch, right? And then as you go down, you start losing your slow twitch and gaining some of those extra fast twitch, right? So instead of looking at like 8-minute to 5-minute per kilometer pace as all aerobic, it's like there is a lot of value in each different step in that process, right? And spending time in each of those zones, because you're going to strengthen that certain pool of muscle fibers, right? And so, yeah, it's just, and how you balance it out that's the art form of periodization and training, right? And everyone's going to be so different in how they respond to that. But that was just my focus, is like, you know, rather than getting lost in all the metrics, how do I get from point A to point B as fast as I can? What pace do I want to do it, and spend time there, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
And so you've obviously, it worked. You did an amazing UTK 100, you did UTA miler this year, so you definitely, your method works, and you can tell you got a lot of knowledge there. And you're obviously a coach, right? With the goat farm?
Yes, the stable.
No goats.
Yeah.
Just human athletes,
That's
right?
it. Yeah. Well, they're all the greatest of all time versions of themselves, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. I've seen a couple of them get PBs this year. We've seen Fergus get a really good PB at Hounslow Short, and he hand took 6 foot, right? Nearly 40 minutes PB.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you really someone that like does the method yourself. That probably blends really well to athletes, because you've tried and tested different things. And
100%. Like I just look at it from my lens, and I go, if I was trying to find a coach, right, I would want to be with the coach who's practicing everything that they're preaching, right? Not the coach who's like, oh, do this and this. And I'm like, well, why aren't you doing that? Right? It's like, it just doesn't make sense, right? So that's why I'm like, you know, they come to me because they obviously enjoy or like something about, whether it's my personality, whether it's my coaching style, whatever it is. And so it's like, that's what you want to deliver to them, right? Not something that the science of the book says is the optimal way to go. It's like, you know, what am I practicing, and trying to help them obviously find that in their own way too, right? Because it's not all about, hey, this is what I'm doing, do that, right? Because like everyone is completely different, and you got to be able to adapt that to them in their own way, kind of thing. But I think the principle that I was talking about it's that underlying principle that I try to follow with all my athletes, and then we just tweak that to their individuality kind of thing. Yeah.
And your athletes, so they like, give us a sense, like you're training more elite athletes, you're training anyone, like is there any sort of...
Pretty much anyone. Like for me, when people reach out to me, it's a lot about the vibe and the connection, right? Like, and the biggest thing too is like, where is their head at with coaching and training as well? And so, because the biggest thing that I'm trying to create is a community here. And so I obviously want people who I feel like are going to bring value to the community and get value themselves from the community side of things. And so it's not about like turning people down. Like I can think of maybe like 1 or 2 people that I've pointed in the direction of a different coach, just mainly because, you know, I think that maybe that coach's ideologies and philosophies probably suited them better. But yeah, it's just about getting them to understand like what my goals are, my goals for my athletes, and it helps them just kind of mesh into it, because I think the community side of things has been awesome. And I think we've witnessed that at some of the events, like just seeing everyone there cheering each other on, and it like adds so much value to the athlete's experience when they came solo to the event, but they've got a team of people around them, right? And it's so cool. Like that's probably been my favorite thing about these events, is like that person's no longer solo doing the UTA event. They've got this like support crew there, and to the point where like some of the athletes now are like crewing them and stuff, and going out and pacing them and doing all these things and stuff. And it's like, I didn't do any of that. I just, you know, created the team and tried to help them understand what I want to get from this. And now they're just taking that on themselves, right? And just they're legends. Like I love them all, kind of thing.
But is that built through the training sessions? So, you know, some coaches run where here's your program, and you go off and do it, and I'll talk to you once a week. And then others are really about that community, and they're saying, okay, our group runs, we're doing interval, or we're doing track on Tuesday, we're doing this on Thursday, we're doing hills on Friday morning, and our long run is on Sunday. And everyone in the stable, if they can, comes along to that. So where does
we
the goat
really
farm
don't have like, I'm like I've got a couple athletes that are training with us up in Blackheath and stuff, but that's like 3 or 4. And then we've got like Sarah and Henry and other people who aren't my athletes, but they're just part of the group. And that's just kind of just for fun, just to help the people local in the area. But the community side actually is driven through the online as well as the camps that I've run with some of them. So, and that's where I was like, I want this to be a team experience and not just that online talk to you once, probably won't see you in person hardly ever, and if we do, it might be at the event or whatever. So like we will have a training camp to start now at the start of next year, wherever we're going to get together with all the athletes, and it'll be about like trying to start their year off on the right foot and get an idea of their goals and their mindset and stuff. And we'll have some workshops and different things, and it also just gives them the opportunity to meet each other, right? So that way when they're online in our groups and chats and stuff, they now have a stronger connection with everyone on there, right? Rather than just being that, you know, that number on the WhatsApp group kind of thing, right? They're now like, oh yeah, Tim, we shared a run together at this time, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's where it started. And that's how I noticed it from the UTA camp, that like brought all of my athletes together. And I was like, we got to do more of this. I was like, that was the key to everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the big facets, I think, to longevity in running and enjoying trail running is community. It's totally having, like, I actually love doing the Running Wild events just because you see so many locals, even the local park run. It's so nice when you can kind of get out and you're seeing people the same, like the same places, but different places as well. Yeah. So no, it's, I definitely think building community is such a good connection, because then they're not just driven to the race, they're the process of the training. So train longer, do good at doing strength, less injuries, keep going. So no, it sounds really good. But something I wanted to ask you about is nutrition, because I know you're very good at it.
Yeah.
I think we need to extract this from the audience. Yeah. So maybe we can start with like maybe off races. Do you have a certain style, or are you just more you've very got your game on with the races with getting your carbs in?
The most important thing about nutrition is take a lot. And get a lot in you. Like it's, you can dial it down, you can count your macros, you can do all these things, but it's like, if you're training enough and you're training consistently, eat a lot, feel the work that you are doing. And I think we get caught up in this idea of like, oh, we got to do some fat burning, or we got to do whatever. And it's like, man, if you're burning this much extra calories, you have to replace this much extra, right? And like when we do some of these big ultra runs or long runs on the weekend, it's like you were burning a lot of calories on a 3 to 4 hour run, like a lot. And then people have their normal breakfast after. And I go, that's not going to cut it, right? Yeah. Like you do that over multiple weeks, you will get injured, right? And so it's like, it is a little bit of an excuse to like eat more and really, you know, overindulge. Like obviously you have to be careful with that depending at where you are in your training. Like if you're only training 2 or 3 runs a week, then if you're overeating, then that probably won't help you. But like if you're training every day and you're someone who's running every single morning, maybe a couple strength sessions in the evening, it's like you need to be eating and you need to be getting a lot on. Like we had this conversation at Blackall with a couple other athletes down there in Queensland, and one athlete in particular, I'm going to throw his name out there, Jack Gill. He's an absolute legend. He's got the same last name as me, so but he's a fantastic runner. And we were talking about it, and he's like, I was thinking about it. He's like, he told me the other day, he's like, I've had like 2 niggles in my whole running career. But it was funny, me and Liam would be running with him, and we're like, oh, Jack, like, what did you eat this morning? He's like, pizza and McDonald's. And we're like, and we would always like kind of give him shit. Because back then it was kind of like, oh, really healthy food, you know, do whatever. But the guy's never been injured, and he eats like a horse. Like he eats so much food. But that's what we were talking about now. He's like, he's like, he didn't really know it at the time, but he's realized now too. He's like, that's why he stayed pretty injury free, because he just eats a lot of calories and makes sure he's always getting it on board. And like I said, because he trains so frequently, right, your metabolism works harder to burn it off, so it doesn't become a hindrance, that extra food. But yeah, like, and then when it comes to races, it's like if you want to back up days, you want to back up sessions, you need to be taking on the nutrition that's going to help you recover properly from that run. And I find it funny. Like nowadays, there's still skeptics out there who are trying to say like, oh yeah, you know, you don't need, you know, all these carbs, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't know, like when I used to run, and I had that same idea of like, you know, just take a bar and a couple things, and then I was finishing 30K runs, and I was like feeling like death, and my soul was sucked from my body as I'm like getting in the car.
I know that feeling.
Which we all had countless times, right? And I can't think of the last time I felt like that. Like, honestly, like I can say that very truthfully. Like, the last time I felt like that, I had COVID. Literally. And that was probably 2 years ago. And
but you're also fueling in runs as well.
That's like I fuel all my training runs. Essentially, the mentality I take with it is, you know, we have fuel on board for about 60 to 90 minutes, right? That can get us through that run as long as we're fueling properly before and after. But once we start getting anything over that, so the moment I kind of hit 90 minutes, I'm taking something, right? I got a gel, I've got something mid-run, you know, whatever it is, making sure I'm getting lots of water too. And then as the runs get longer, it's like, like I'll do a 2-hour run exactly like I do a race. Like I'm taking 100 to 120 grams per hour on a 2-hour long run of carbs, and then, you know, a couple 100 milligrams of sodium, 1 to 1.5 liters of water, like every single one, because I go like, if I can recover and feel better after this run, then my session tomorrow is going to be better. If I could do the same, then that one's going to be even better. And so instead of getting the compounding negative effect of drilling yourself into the ground, you get the compounding positive effect, and you just continuously feel good, and you get more quality out of your sessions. Now, it's not going to mean that I'm not going to have a bad session, because you still will, and I still have. You can ask Henry Hugman. You can quote to some of the sessions where we go on the track, and I'm like, what's going on? But for the most part, it's completely changed my outlook towards training, because it's made me feel like I can be an ultra athlete and run 30, 40 Ks on the weekend and then go run around the park with my kids. Whereas before it was like, where's the remote? Sit on the couch. Like, that's it. And it's just not the case anymore, luckily. And I can say that's training, obviously. The more mileage you build up, you build that muscular endurance to support that. But fueling's been 50% of that for sure.
All the new, well, it's not even that new anymore, but like the high carb kind of wave that came in, but it's stuck. And I felt it too. Just as soon as you can like fuel well on a run or even on a race, it's so amazing to finish. Like I also ran decades ago when you didn't have that and you'd be crashing and dead, and just to like have that consistency of energy and finish and still feel okay, and then you still like, you obviously eat afterwards, but like just that consistency of energy is amazing. And obviously the science checks out, everyone's doing it.
And the amount you're taking on is trainable. And it's like, imagine if you started running and you got to 20K per week or something, and things started getting hard, and you went, that's just me, I can't run any further than that, right? The same mentality people take with fueling. They get to 80 grams of carbs, and, you know, things don't go quite right, and they go, that's just me, I can't take any more fuel, right? And I go, well, you tried it once or twice, right? It's like, practice it, put it in your days, your every long run, every week, you know? That's when you'll truly see it. Like when I first started, I had sessions where I tried to take 100 grams, and I was like, oh, Jesus. And then I go to Hounslow and I run 6K and take 180 grams of carbs over 35 minutes, right? And I was like, where the stretch from Lockleys to the Pinnacles and back. So I took an 80-gram carb drink mix along the 3K. Then I did a 40-gram Morton gel at the aid station, and then I did another 80, so it's 200 grams of carbs in 30 minutes or whatever it was took me to do that section.
But you did that strategically, right? Because your gut was probably better there because it's a bit flat. That's like the flat spot.
Well, and your hands. And alpha available because getting down from Lockleys.
That was the idea. It was just to like preload the crap out of that section, and then be able to descend Lockleys and ascend Perrys and not really have to worry about much. But you have to do that in training, right? Which is what I did. And I was doing for the last, 8 weeks leading into that race was the same thing on that section. I just drink a bunch and then I'd descend down Lockleys, right? And so, like your stomach can handle it on, because there's no way me 2 years ago would have been able to do that. 0% chance. But it's just like your training volume, right? You adapt and your body adapts and makes changes based on what you're doing, and the fueling's the same. And then a lot of people will come up with the argument of, oh, but when you start taking too much, you start not absorbing enough carbs from it, like a lower percentage, right? So like, what's the point? Well, it's like if you're taking 100 grams of carbs and you're getting maybe 80% of that, so you're actually oxidizing 80 grams of the carbs. If you take 170 grams or something like that, and then you're only oxidizing 60%, that's still another 30 grams of carbs more than the 100 that you were taking, right? So even though, you're not utilizing as much, you're still getting more, right? And so, they can do studies now to find out how much you're actually oxidizing, but the more you go, it'll still be more than before. It's just not at the same rate.
So do you spend a fair bit of time like looking at the science? And
I love it. I love it all.
I'm getting that sense.
I absolutely love it all. But it's like, I don't know, knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when you and when you have an understanding for these things, it makes the follow through and execution of it that much easier because you know the mechanism behind what's happening. So you're like, well, I have to do this because I know what's happening if I don't do it, right? Whereas when you don't really understand the mechanism behind what's happening, you kind of get into that, oh, well, I could do it, but, do I really have to? Does it really matter? But when you know what's actually happening in your body, that's when you go like, oh, yeah, I definitely need to be fueling right now, right? And you do it all the time and it becomes consistent. So it also helps you with motivation, right? Just understanding, what's under the hood and what's going on and how to kind of, hack that, I guess. Yeah.
Well, with hacking that, so let's get into mindset.
Yes, yeah.
How do we extract your mindset? No, so what's your kind of your goal or your mindset for races coming up? Is it very different to how you train?
Mindset is 100% number one. Like you can look at whatever else, training, nutrition, all these other things, but when we talk about what matters most, it's your mindset. And like I like to refer to that as your state of being, right? So your state of being when you enter a race, the state of being when you finish a race, state of your being during a race, right? That's your mindset. And you can alter and change that, kind of like we talked before, if you have the knowledge of how to do that, right? So because when you look at it, like if you don't think you can be a top athlete, I personally don't think you will improve in your fitness. Now, what I mean by that, right, is not that it's not about thinking like, oh, I've got to be delusional and think, like I could be the best in the world, right? But I know that for like myself, like I probably won't ever be the best in the world, but I train like I'm going to be, right? Because that's how I know I'm going to get every inch of success out of it, right? And that doesn't mean too that I've got to like quit my job and do all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you balance things out and there's priorities in your life, of course. But like when I think about training because I love the sport, it's like I'm going to do everything I can to maximize that little bit of potential that I can get. If it gets me to the top, awesome, right? And if it doesn't, I still had an amazing time along the way, right? And so I think everyone should kind of have that mindset. And even if, I know people who do that in a joking way, right? But it still helps them get where they want to go because they still put that time and effort and energy into, trying to be the best version of themselves on the trails and even in their nutrition before and after, right? You're thinking like an athlete, right? And anyone who is trying to perform or be better is an athlete, right? If you're competing in a sport and you're trying to be better at that sport, you're an athlete, right? So it's like, have the athlete mindset, right? Like, don't let anyone tell you that you're not an athlete, no matter where you are in the race, right? Because you're trying to improve yourself. So you are by definition an athlete, right? And
back of the pack athlete, like something.
So, but that's really clever, even if whatever part of the pack you are, if you still train in a serious way, like you will get you the best result for yourself. Yeah, it makes sense.
I think it's when you don't have that mindset and you just, I'm just a back of the pack runner, right? That you probably won't improve, right? Because you've already limited yourself mentally, right? And the brain is such a powerful tool and like a perfect example of this, of just how important your state is. There's this guy, Liam Thierens. He was the winner of Blackall last year, and I caught up with him for a run before Blackall this year. Great guy, but he was telling me that he gets this crazy muscular cramping at the start of races. He has never once had it in a training run, ever. Not once. He's like, and I'm like, ever. He's like, ever. He's like, I've never had a training run where I've had this. Every single race I've started now, all of a sudden my quads, like 3K in, just C's.
So it's like a nervous anxiety.
Yeah, right. And that's when you enter these races in a different state, you're not going to get the same results as your training, right? Because you're obviously something, I don't know what it is for him, right? But obviously he's getting the start of that race in a different state than he's getting in his training, right? And so it's about trying to get that understanding and awareness of that state that you're in. And then it goes like, well, how do I change that, right? And that's the big question. And for me, how I've changed that from being the nervous guy at the start lines, because I've always wanted to win and be competitive, was through the race-based stuff and training. That was it for me. It was like when I could get to the races knowing I know exactly what pace I need to hit. I've done it in training. I've tested it. All we got to do now is replicate it, right? In maybe a little bit of a longer version. That was where like my mind in races now is just at ease all the time, 24/7 now.
When you save a lot of energy if you're not stressing, because you can lose so much energy with fatigue, stressing the night before, not sleeping well.
Stress is stress. Your brain just sees it as stress, right? Yeah.
Do you still, like with that mindset, do you still sometimes find that start of the race, like there's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy going on, people are running all around you and all that sort of stuff, that sometimes you still get carried away and you have to pull it back, or do you just know exactly what you're doing and you don't get carried away ever? Like,
I think it's,
I find that really, that's hard for me.
Is that your failing, Rob?
I have many failings, but that's one of them.
Also known as race pit feet.
Yeah, like it's easy to get carried away and just without, like, you feel good, but then you look at your watch and you're like, my heart rate's, 15 beats higher than what it ever was when I was training.
Yeah. And you know what? That's part of the excitement of racing too. Sometimes you are going to get carried away with the pack and stuff like that. And it's not always a bad thing. I think it's about maybe understanding too where you then need to go back into your rhythm, right? And being very confident of where that's going to be. So it's almost like, it's like killing the elephant in the room, right? So like you go into that race at the starting and you think, I know I'm going to get carried away for the first kilometer, right? But once that happens, that's the pace I'm dropping back into. Because chances are, like, if you don't get super carried away, if you go a little bit harder in the ultra races that we're doing, it's not really going to affect your race, right? You'll be able to dial back into your comfortable rhythm, and then you'll be able to relax for the rest of the race, right? So it's almost like kill the elephant in the room at the starting. Know that's going to happen. Set that up in your mind that, I'll probably get a little bit carried away at the starting. That's all right. But by this point on the course, I'll make sure I'm settled in and I'm just cruising, right? But for me now, it's just, I think because I've replicated this so many times now in training, I understand that I don't actually need to run out with the front pack because I know that this pace that I've set and this rhythm, most of the time I set it towards the times that are going to be competitive, right? And so I go, as long as I stick to that time, I know maybe not first, but I'm going to fall striking range somewhere out there, right? And then, everything doesn't always go to plan. Like my Buffalo race was the one where things did not go to plan. And I was did the same thing. I was like, you know what? But the thing was too, is I consciously did this. I wanted to experiment and see how my body would react to running out the front and taking that impulse. And so I chased down Mikey Dimuentes on the downhill and then I'm running past him on the downhill 20K into the race going, I messed this up. I've screwed this one up. And
Still did well. What did you get? 4th?
Yeah. Like
what distance race was that one?
That was the 42. The
42.
Sky one.
Yeah.
And so like I knew by doing that I didn't have my best time that I could have had because I did go way too hard in that first 20. And but like I said, that race was an experiment for me, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to see because like I said, I was using this very patient mentality before, and so I was like, maybe there is more I can get out of it of going a little bit faster. And I found out that's not the case. I've been having the right mentality going into things.
Your philosophy.
So,
that's great.
No, I'm doing Buffalo again, so I won't be trying to take the downhill crown on the descent. And, next year.
Back for redemption.
But no, so it's just about identifying, your state and trying to make that change. And sometimes you can't, like your state will always be a little bit more heightened when you get to the start line, right? The crowd's around, things are going, your heart rate would probably be a little bit higher. Like you see here the UTMB athletes who go through those big channels, right? And then they look at their data after and it's like 20 beats higher, even though their pace didn't change, right? And so it's like, state of arousal will change based on environment for sure. But it's just about how you react to it, right? And
I always find it amazing those race reports you read of people doing milers where like they're about to like quit, they're not going to finish, and then get to the aid station and just that energy and just, I guess, change of mindset, food, and then they go again and they always finish. So it's always kind of those low points you can push through.
Yeah.
You just got to find it. So what would be your tip, like when you're in those low points, like how do you switch it?
You just got to make an assessment of where you're at. Like just take a toll. It's like, okay, how am I feeling? Am I dehydrated? And my legs hurt? What's going on? Yeah, my legs are cramping. Okay, so it's like, got to take some salt pills, got to slow down the pace, got to relax. You essentially just got to get yourself into a state that does feel more comfortable. Sometimes it is stop, that might be the point. I was like, I just got to stop 2 minutes, take a breath, reset myself, because ultimately 2 minutes in an ultra, it's not going to really make a big deal, but it could change your state enough to allow you to get back into a rhythm again. Especially like in those moments where you can feel almost like the anxiety coming because things are getting challenging or overwhelming or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, like I've stopped in races. It's most of the time, it's more like 30 seconds just to kind of reset myself. But I did that at Hounslow, actually. But it came in the form of, Benjamin Butler will love this, came in the form of pretending to drop a gel. So, this is where, we talked about the mindset and the state, and it's like, I like to run my own race, but at the same time, you still got to be aware of what's going on around you. And in that moment, I felt like Ben was actually running a really good race, and he was just sticking on me, and he was following me and not overdoing himself. And so I pretend to drop a gel from my thing so that he would go off on his own and then probably run harder because he knew he got a lead on me. Yeah. And he did exactly that. And then Fergus was telling me coming down Perry's that he's like, yeah, Ben said he was cooked. And I was like, oh. I was like, sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, that's the mental side of things too, that I think is fun in racing and stuff like that, especially in trail running, because in road running, it's mainly fitness, right? Yeah. Someone's fitter than you and their day doesn't blow up. Like you're not going to mentally mess with them when they're 100 meters ahead running faster pace than you, right? Whereas in trail running, you got different terrains thrown at you, temperatures, different things, some people are good on ups, but not good on downs. Some people are good on downs, not good on ups. There's a lot more fun that can be had in that. And back and forth.
The classic is when there's an out and back and you're running with someone, you've been racing them sort of stuff, and you make sure you say, like, when people come past, you can sort of, oh, you're doing great. And so it sounds like you're feeling awesome. And you're actually dying on the inside. Sort of like, oh, you're doing awesome. You're the cheerleader. And you're like, and you see the guy next to you, but you're absolutely dying on the inside.
That's good. That's the way to do it. Jim Walmsley talks about that all the time. He goes like, everyone's like, oh my God, he looks so good all the time. And he literally says on the podcast, he goes, when the cameras are there, I make sure I look good. Right? He says that on the podcast. He goes, when I get into like the checkpoints, like I put on the bounce, I put on the stride, I put the show on kind of thing. Cause he goes like, that information will probably be relayed to other athletes. Or other athletes will see it or whatever it is kind of thing. And so, that's where it's.
Well, Lucy, I thought you made a name from that, like from when she did the first Surf Coast Century at 16, and her dad said, you have to be smiling every time they see you because they're watching, like the officials didn't let her in the race. So, so she was always smiling. She had a big smile on her face, and she just carried that through. Helps keep her motivated.
It's smiling's massive, I think. If you can, same thing, changing the state, right? When you feel crappy, right, and you're in that race, and you're like, man, this is not going good. Just smile, right? Like literally, like just, you know what? Actually, it's not that bad, right? Like I've been in worse states, and it's like you'd be surprised at how much that can just completely flip the script, right? Yeah.
Also, you paid to be there. You've trained. Right. How does it work?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Any more questions? No.
I think the one thing that we kind of maybe skip by one part is when it comes to training. I'd say the thing, like, the best advice I could give to anyone when it comes to training and what matters most is, number one is actually volume. People can argue whatever you want, but it's like, the 150K runner is going to perform better than the 40K runner, right? Like it's as simple as that. Obviously, how you get to that volume is the tricky part and the important part, and that's the periodization process and stuff. But the important part about that build too is the patience, right? And it's earning, the way I look at it is you need to earn the right to do more and work harder, right? And what I mean by that is like you need to spend time in those zones below that really fancy 20 by 400 workout. You need to do the 5 by 400s, right? You need to spend a lot of time there, then do the 10 by 400s or the 15 by 400s, like spend time doing those, earn the right to be able to do more, earn the right to be able to do those longer runs, right? Because a lot of the times we see the people going out for these 6-hour runs or whatever it is. And while I never tell anyone not to go because I know it's community and they're going to be involved, but I think that the number one cause of injury is actually from your long runs. There was a recent study that's just come out and they said that the number one cause of injury is an acute increase in your long run. So they looked at week to week, all the different sessions that these athletes had. And essentially, they showed that it was the highest predictor of injury were the athletes who increased their long run by more than, I think it was 10% or 13% it fell within. So if you go from a week where you're running 2 hours and then you go 3 hours and then you go 3.5 or whatever it is, and it's like, if you've spent 12 weeks running at 2 hours every single weekend, then yeah, you could probably make that 2 to 2.5 hour jump. But if you were, the weekend before that, you did a 90-minute and then you did a 2 hour and then you did a 2:30, you're just like increased chance of injury, increased chance of injury, increased chance of injury, right? And so it's like earn the right to do those runs, right? Do it in your training, be disciplined, be patient. And that way, when you get to those runs, like I said before, you're going to feel 10 times better doing them. And you're going to have that experience that most of us trail runners want to be able to run a 20K and feel good from start to finish and have that, that experience that we all kind of talk about. I hear all of the people that I talk to, they're like, I just want to be able to enjoy my run from start to finish and feel efficient and feel, fluid in the running kind of thing, not feeling like it's a grind halfway through. And I go, that comes from being patient in the process, right? Absorbing those adaptations before you take that jump to the next level. And
so you talked earlier, you mentioned about periodization, and we've all done training programs, no doubt. We've had periodization. So do you believe in the base building, then the strength, which is hills or speed, and then speed as its own block?
So the way I look at it, so I'm a very polarized coach where I kind of do everything all at the same time, but we manipulate what those things look like. So I look at it and I go, you know what, if you're a trail athlete, there's so many variables that come into play, right? Like there's economy on your flat runs, there's the strength in your legs from doing the hills, there's downhill work that needs to be done, there's long runs that need to be done, the easy running. So it's like I try to have a little bit of all of that within the weeks, but then what those individual sessions look like will change across the blocks, right? So when you're starting off in the year, I believe that you should be looking to make new mechanical adaptations that you didn't previously have. And you can't do that at slower paces, right? You have to do, because you've already spent a lot of time there. What you haven't done is spent a lot of time at the faster paces. So at the start of the year, it's like, let's do those really short reps. Let's try and get your legs moving at faster speeds than they have previously, right? So longer rests in between them, faster paces, and then you can hopefully take some extra mechanical adaptations now into the next phase where you start lengthening those a little bit, and you start, instead of doing 200, 400 type reps, you do, 600, 800, 1K type reps. And then eventually you get into your specificity block and it's like, cool, now we're doing, 12-minute, like two by 12-minute efforts on uphill or threshold and stuff like that, right? And you've hopefully now created some new mechanical adaptations that you carry over into that. And then it's like, you do your race and then it's like you reset, right? You try and go a little bit faster. And so that's kind of my idea. And you do that with hill work, you do that with flat running as well, because we all know that there's a lot of flat running still in trail running, as much as like some of the races are pretty steep, like that running economy that you get from that, you can only get it in flat running. Like if we look at some of the best athletes in trail running, most of them came from a road background because they had this wicked amazing running economy from all the flat running, and then all they had to do was add some muscular endurance by pounding their legs on the hills after, and that process actually is way shorter than the process of creating economy, because when you create economy in your body, you have to physiologically change your muscle fibers and tendons and different things, right? And that process is not a short process. That is a very long process to properly change that. So that's why it's like, yeah, you should always be doing fast work. Another concept I like to help people understand that is think about when you were a kid. How much sprinting did you do as a kid? Right? On the schoolyard. All around. All the time, right? Everywhere, your friends on the other side of the yard, you're like, oh, sprint over there, right? And then you'd sprint over here, and it's like, and we say, oh, we're getting old, and it's like, oh, are we just not moving as quick as we used to, right? Like as kids, we sprinted all the time, right? So we could do any sport at any time because, you know, our body was always in motion. And so, you know, it was easy. And then all of a sudden we get desk jobs and we do all these things and we just stop moving fast. And we lose all of those mechanical adaptations, right? And when you do that like 15, 20 years, you've lost a lot of adaptation that you would have had when you were a kid. But it's like you can get that back, but it's not a process of 3 months or 6 months. It's like I need to look at this and go, you know what? I can still get faster no matter what age I am. Might look a little bit different, but you know, you can still improve that no matter what, right?
See, that message is for us, Rob.
Speed training.
What's that? That's the area that it's always gets put to the side.
So like I tell people, it's like train, don't strain. One of the things I did with AI that I think AI can be so useful is I took all of the most famous coaches in the world and I put them through the AI system. And I said, tell me the most important philosophies they had with their athletes. The biggest one that came out was train, don't strain. So, and so that's one that I use a lot now with my athletes. And it's this idea that all of them were saying, they're like, if this is your fitness, train here. Don't train up here. That's how you get injured, right? So it's like, if this is your capacity, train at your capacity. And it's that idea too, that you train there and you soak up those adaptations and this threshold will push, right? And so I just thought that was interesting because we always have this idea of like, look at those elite athletes, like crushing themselves, grinding. But when you really think and you look at their sessions, like they're actually not working that hard, right? They're like
for them.
Yeah, for them. Yeah, for them. Like they're very controlled and it's almost like an easy session sometimes. Like they do have some harder ones where they're getting fine tuning for some races, but like when they're doing their things, the paces look fast for us. So like, oh my God, like look how much energy they're expending. But they've had so many years of training that session would be like, if we could put a comparison, let's say me running a 400 meter, I'd be, let's say, running at a 3-minute pace as fast as I could. And that's like me like cranking it, for example. And then they're doing like a 2:30, right, on that 400 meter pace. Their 2:30 might actually be my 3-minute 10. You know what I mean? So even though it looks faster and it looks harder, right, I should actually back off mine a little bit, and that would be more equivalent to the effort that they're actually putting in.
And so many times you look at them like you might be on the side of the track or watching on TV or something, and you go, they look like they're just cruising. They're so effortless. They're not even working hard, even though you can see from their lap times how quickly they are moving around the track. And that's why they're probably it's within themselves.
Exactly, that's it. Always train within yourself, and find those moments to push outside of that, because that obviously like pushes the comfort zones as well in the frame of reference. But you gotta know where you are, identify, find out where you are, and then just like spend time there.
So putting that aside, because you're a coach, do you have a speed session that across all of your athletes who are at different stages of life and different speeds and abilities and a different part of their training year? Do you have one go-to speed session that pretty much everyone's...
Give away all your secrets. Come on. Go to thegoatfarm.com.
The way to look at it is like all my athletes are actually doing all the same sessions. But the difference is that the time under tension is lower for athletes who are at a different phase, right? So, it's just the difference between 5x400 and 20x400, right? So the athletes who are starting their journey, they're still doing the same speed work. They're just doing it with less time under tension because their weekly volume is less. So their ability to handle more intensity is less, right? And so, we got lots of fun sessions that we like to throw at them. And sometimes they send me the messages that like, I hate you. But, but at the same time, they're doing that because they actually enjoy it. And they're like, that was a fun session. But I think one of one of my favorite ones that I do like to do is it's called the Mona Getty, the Mona Fartlek.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoy that one, and I throw that in there for athletes every now and then because it's a good tracker of two things actually, which I really like. It's obviously it tracks your top speed, but it also tracks your recovery ability. So from those speeds. So for example, when you're doing the Mona Getty Fartlek, it's 90 on, 90 off. 90 on, 90 off, and then it's 4 times 60 on, 60 off, 4 times 30 on, 30 off, 4 times 15 on, 15 off. But the ons and the offs are not supposed to be like run then jog. It's supposed to be like 5K pace, just off 5K pace, right? So it's like you're just getting that little bit of recovery. But what happens is when you first do it, it's like way below 5K pace, and you're like, oh my God. And then after you do it a couple times, you end up like getting some really good sessions because you end up learning how to recover off of like 10 seconds per K or 15 seconds per kilometer slower. And it's a really cool feeling once you start doing that because I remember the first time I did it at like the Burt Club in Brisbane, and they were like, oh yeah, we're going to go on, off. And I was like, okay, off. So I just started jogging and these guys are still flying. And I'm like, that's not an off. I'm like, yeah, they're still holding like a 3:40 pace. I was like, what is this? And then, and I'm back at like 4:30 pace, like Jesus. And then, but eventually I started to get it, and your body starts learning how to recover at faster paces. And I think that's a pretty cool skill to have.
Yeah.
What that looks like metabolically and muscularly, I haven't dug too deep, but there is some ability to recover at faster paces that you get there. And whether it's mental because you're like, this is the pace that's hard, and then this pace isn't as hard, so it feels like a refresher. But yeah, so that's a fun one that I like to do and throw out with people every now and then. And you track how you track it, which is cool, is it's a 20-minute total workout. So it's total 20 minutes, and the goal is how much distance can you cover in the 20 minutes, right? And then over time, if you do it every like 3 months or something like that, you can see if you got more distance, right? And you can improve that through your ons or your offs too, right? So you can improve it by maybe running faster on your ons, but then if your offs were really slow, then you might not get it. But eventually what was happening with mine is I was getting more distance because my offs were becoming quicker. My ons weren't that much quicker. They're still my 5K pace, but my offs were getting faster. And so your total distance ends up improving. And so, yeah, it's a fun one. Anyone should try it out. And then you do it every couple months just to see where the fitness is coming. It's a good one.
Mona Fartlek.
We haven't done it actually in our Thursday sessions. Yeah.
Crack.
We've done the fatigued miles. Yeah.
Quinton, I've got to say, I think this has been really insightful, and I've really enjoyed it. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Yeah, just like the Gilly Goat on Instagram is probably the best way. I have thegoatfarm.com.au, which is my website, but I think it's just easier to go through Instagram or something like that, or find my number on the website and just text me through there. That's probably the best way, because I know like emails and different things can get lost sometimes. So, but yeah, that's the best way to reach out if you want to.
And before you go, what's your favorite run in the Blue Mountain?
Oh,
yeah, Lockley's Perry's.
Yes.
Yeah, Lockley's Perry's, hands down. It's a magical place, and it just, I don't know, it feels different running out there than it does in other places, and it's just this feeling that I probably can't put words to, but yeah, definitely Lockley's and Perry's for sure. Yeah.
Sucker for punishment.
Oh yeah,
no, we'll leave it there. Perfect.
Thank you.
Unreal. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.